What's up, folks? Max here. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. Got some footage in the background with a variety of games between Injustice and Ultimate Marvel 3 and all the stuff that I've been playing as of late. No worries for you guys that have been asking a lot about Marvel vs. Capcom Origins and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and Darkstalkers and a lot of the other Online Warrior series games. They will be coming back. I've just been very focused on Injustice as of right now because it's been a lot of fun, and the point where I'm actually really good at fighting games, I believe, is during the beginning phase, but I actually want to save this topic for like another discussion so you guys can understand where I'm coming from as a fighting game player. What I want to talk about today is something that is extremely relevant to what is going on with the Injustice Online Ranked and even a bit in Ultimate Marvel 3, as it's been happening to me quite a bit lately, and that is the subject of rage quitting. I've made some previous episodes about like anger and rage quitting and stuff like that, but I think I'll summarize it into a Real Talk episode because this was a good example of myself learning a fighting game in the previous week of Injustice. I had the week of The Flash and the week of Nightwing, and I was learning how to use certain characters and in live commentary, so you guys can actually hear my frustrations, my happiness, my quarrels, or my confusion live as it goes on. And I wanted this because I wanted people to understand what it takes to learn a new character in a fighting game. For the most part, this is a very difficult thing to do, is dealing with rage and loss when a new fighting game comes out, or especially when learning a new character. It's something that's very hard for me still, as I like winning. I don't know if there's any reason to not like winning. I don't specifically enjoy losing, but I happen to think of myself as taking losses pretty well, unless it's something very specific that I get upset with. And nowadays, there's this thing going on with rage quitting in Injustice, and it's especially bad in Injustice because you do not actually get the victory at the end of a rage quit. You actually get disqualified and a loss, and I think the other person, if they turn off their console, doesn't actually get the loss either. There is a way around this, and I'll have to make a video on it later because I have not had enough time to test it, but there is a way to prevent yourself from getting the loss in Injustice if somebody does rage quit on you. Now, this was a huge problem when Injustice first came out in its first week, but nowadays it's not that bad, and I only get between like a couple of hours of a night playing Injustice, about 3 to 5 people that actually rage quit on me. The big sad part about this is the fact that in the first week, I literally had, I swear, like a third of my matches, people were dropping out and they were rage quitting at the end of every time, and I was getting losses, and I could just see my losses just keep going up and up and up and up and up, and I'm like, I can't do anything to stop this. This is absolutely ridiculous, so these guys can secure their spot on a leaderboard of their fabricated victories. It's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. And I had a couple of guys in the previous weeks with the Flash and stuff like that, and I think even with Nightwing, that rage quit live as I was doing live commentary, and I kept the video in there and vented my frustration and things like that, and some people didn't understand what was so bad about rage quitting. So let's talk about that right now, and then we'll talk about a bit of like the rage discussion after this. Rage quitting is the worst thing, the absolute worst thing in an online fighting game. Not accepting your losses in a fighting game, and like I just said, accepting loss is what competitive gaming is all about, or just being competitive in life in general, crap, we can just break this down all the way to its core, is something that's absolutely necessary. Understanding what to do with your mistakes, how to fix things, and what you can do to move forward is one of the most important freaking things to learn, especially in fighting games, and like I said, apply that to life as well. And rage quitting in Injustice or any online fighting game takes that away. Takes away the fact that I will not accept the fact that I lost to this. I will do something outside of your power and shut off my console or something like that. The biggest issue I have with rage quitting is that it's not punished enough. I think it needs to be the most severely punished thing because in a fighting game you have a 1 versus 1 type of scenario. There's always going to be 1 person versus 1 person unless it's Street Fighter Cross-Tekken or if it's 2 versus 2. But it's a very personal thing. Unlike something like a shooter where you have a team of 6 versus 6 or 9 versus 9 or 20 versus 20 or whatever, that's a bit different when 1 person backs out and the game repopulates another person into the lobby. Although it's still a big issue, and I have made videos before when it came to Call of Duty about people backing out. and series of like a ton of dudes backing out within a certain game because you're doing very well. It's a problem with games nowadays, and some games try to punish it, but some games don't try hard enough to punish it. And sadly, Injustice is one of the games that does not try hard enough. You have this disconnect bar that tells people how many times they've disconnected, but the issue is that when you get into a ranked game, you see this little statistical list of their wins, their losses, their disconnects, their ping, and whatever, their true skill ranking, but you don't have any choice. It'll automatically throw you into the game. You don't accept the battle. So why do you even show me this if I see the guy's 170 disconnects? Oh, that's cool, but I can't actually back out of this because I don't want to give this person the satisfaction of getting a victory on me, even though I win. You know, that's the big problem. The reason rage quitting is the worst thing ever, especially in online fighting games, it's the biggest cop-out as a player. I usually don't term the definition of scrub because the definition of scrub actually has a lot of different meanings and what it actually means between a scrub and a noob and stuff like that. They're actually, in my opinion, a scrub is somebody that plays a fighting game with a very specific style and then doesn't understand why they win, continues to do the exact same thing over and over again, and would back out of a game like a rage quit. I think a perfect definition of a scrub is a dude that would use like E-Honda back in the day of like Street Fighter 2 and do nothing but mash hands and expect to win every single fight, and they think they're absolutely amazing at the game. That's a scrub. Then they don't want to learn anything else to get themselves any better. You know what I mean? That's a scrub. A noob is somebody that doesn't know exactly what's going on. They don't land their combos. They don't know their spacing. They don't know their mobility. And they just get essentially blown up. These people aren't like the quote-unquote scrubs. Scrubs are the guys that do specific tactics, repeat the same thing over and over again, and if that doesn't work, they back out of an online game and do something like a rage quit. That is the absolute definition of why rage quitting is absolutely terrible, because it takes away any incentive for this person to get any better. And that's pretty much what fighting games are all about, right? It's one of the most difficult genres of all of video games to actually get good with, and the more we can do to teach people to get better, the more we need to do. And when a dude is online, he's in his first week of playing a brand new fighting game, and he finally gets a victory, and some dude rage quits on him, it's either going to be very motivational because you just made somebody quit out of pure rage, and if you're one of those guys that enjoys making people angry, I'm definitely not, then you might get a kick out of it, but for the most part, it's going to be very demotivational, and it's for reasons like that I consider it one of the worst things you can possibly do, and not just the online game community, but the fighting game community. This is different than dudes rage quitting during competitive play, like in tournaments, for example, because when you're in a tournament and you're about to get blown up by something in the last round, and you essentially pause the game, unplug your controller, and give up, well, yeah, that's considered a rage quit, but it's a lot different because you had this entire audience of people watching this thing happen, and you got blown up so hard that you couldn't take it, and you essentially forfeit. That's called forfeiting. That's a bit different. If they actually added a forfeit button to fighting games and just at the end of the round it was like, I know I'm going to lose completely and I'm just going to get frustrated if I keep on playing, I'm going to forfeit. I would never, ever, ever do something like that because comebacks are like the greatest, most hyped thing ever when it comes to fighting games, but a lot of people get really frustrated really fast. And I can understand that the alternative to rage quitting might be a forfeit button and you just give the guy a win and you a loss. The problem with this is boosting and online environments, but here's my take on this while we end this video. As far as developers trying to adjust the balance of online and boosters and things like that. When you have dudes online that are trying to boost in a fighting game or any competitive game, boosters are gonna boost. Almost no fighting game is going to get a booster, somebody that is very bad at a fighting game, to actually cheat their wins with somebody else any better at that fighting game. There's no way you're going to convert that person. So my take on this whole situation is that you got these guys that are definitely going to rage quit, you got these dudes that are definitely going to boost. Just acknowledge the fact that that is going to happen and don't punish the other players. Sure, something like, a forfeit button might encourage boosting, but it'd actually be really helpful for a lot of people at the same time. And like I said, they're going to boost via the forfeit button, but if a forfeit button wasn't there, they're just going to find some other way to boost, which includes rage quitting. So there's no way to change the mentality of a very few selective people, and there's no reason that should change the experience for everybody. I hope that the future of online fighting games accepts that this stuff is going to happen no matter what, and they actually implement features that make the experience better for the people that actually are playing and want to get better at them. hopefully you guys understand a little bit of my frustration when it comes to fighting games, and the fact that when you learn a new character, especially when it comes to raging in an online environment, it can be very difficult when there's a huge variety of factors different than what you're normal to practicing. And you guys saw that when I was playing Injustice Live. It's learning things, it's understanding, is this guy just doing this thing over and over again, or is he thinking of what he's doing? Is he actually evaluating the situation, or is he just hitting buttons? You kind of got to figure that out live, and you kind of got to understand what your opposition is doing, and it's kind of analyzing their entire game plan, you know what I mean? And that's one of the most important things in a fighting game, and I hope you guys understand that if it sounds like I'm belittling them or ridiculing their playstyle, that's not the case. That's me thinking out loud in my head, and it's not like making that person feel bad or anything like that. It's literally salty online talk. And this is going to happen in online fighting games that don't run the best. If you guys have noticed, the fighting games that I get the most hype and the most excited for, which ones are they? Like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Marvel vs. Capcom Origins. These games have superior online netcode and they run really damn well. Even Street Fighter Cross Tekken has really good online, and I don't find myself getting angry or complaining because the game's running great. I don't have to associate something with the online to get me all pissed off, so there is specific games that will cause this kind of salty speak, and don't let that be my definitive opinion. It's definitely not how I think in the long run. It's exactly what I'm saying in the moment of a hype match just to get myself through it and try to talk myself all the way through to getting a victory. So hopefully you guys understand a little bit more when it comes to rage and rage quitting in fighting games. It's something that's very important to be discussed about how you treat the situation and what you do to make yourself better as a player and better in the future. If you happen to enjoy this episode of Real Talk discussing rage quitting, I'd appreciate a comment or a thumbs up below, especially if you have something you'd like me to discuss in a future episode. If you want to watch more videos right now, I recently put up one to the top left that is utilizing a bunch of different Batman strategies and combos all into one video, and if you'd like to check out the week of Nightwing that I was discussing, click the video on the top right, and this is about 5 parts long and discusses many of the factors between learning a new character so you guys can understand what it takes to figure things out with a new fighting game, and especially a new character. Thanks very much for watching, guys. My name is Maximilian, and I'll see you next time.
Stay down.